Wait a few more minutes, ladies and gentlemen, so please relax. We'll start at 6:03 right now. We'll start at 6:05. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I want to welcome everyone to our January, that's in 5 more months, January 12th, 2026 special meeting of the Merced City Council. This is to consider the potential station relocation request from the High Speed Rail Authority. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll call the meeting to order, and Councilmember Smith is going to lead us in the pledge, so if everybody could please stand.
Good evening, everybody. Ready? Salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Smith. Jennifer.
Okay, agenda item B, roll call. Councilmember DuPont.
Present.
Tao.
Present.
Harris.
Present.
Smith.
Present.
Zhang.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Boyle. Here. And Mayor Serrato.
Here.
Mayor, I'd like to remind the audience that if they wish to address the City Council, they must submit a green request to speak form located at the podium in the back of the chamber. Additionally, citizens can submit public comment to the City Council electronically no later than 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Comments received before the deadline will be sent to the City Council and will be part of the record and will be mentioned as part of the public comment portion of the agenda and will be posted on the city's website. Material may be emailed to cityclerk@cityofmerced.gov, and any correspondence received after 1 p.m. will be distributed to the City Council and retained for the official record. Also, for those audience members who wish to hear the council meeting translated into Spanish, please let our interpreter know.
Hola, buenos días a todos. Me llamo Cintia y yo seré la intérprete de español. Estoy aquí para ayudarles. Esta sería nuestra primera reunión de consejos municipal de la ciudad de Merced. Gracias.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item C, public comments. Members of the public who wish to speak on the item that's listed on the agenda may speak during this portion of the meeting and will be allotted 3 minutes. The mayor may propose a further limit to the time available for all speakers at the discretion of the City Council in order to accommodate as many speakers as possible. Mayor, the clerk's office received emails from Strong Towns Merced and Rosie Campagna regarding agenda item D1. The emails were received by the 1 p.m. deadline and they were sent to council and posted on the city's website.
Thank you, Jennifer. Ladies and gentlemen, given that we have only one agenda item tonight on a recommendation of our city attorney, we're going to hear the presentation first, the staff presentation, the High Speed Rail Authority presentation, and then after that, before council discussion, then we'll take public comment. So if you'd like to be heard on this item, please feel free, as I think many of you have already, fill out one of the green request to speak forms in back, put in the back, the blocks in back, or else find another way to get it up to Jennifer and Alyssa, and we'll be happy to hear from you.
Okay, agenda item D, action items. D1, high-speed rail project update. Merced Station presented by the High Speed Rail Authority, and staff is requesting direction from the Merced City Council.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. We'll start with Deputy City Manager Quintero.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, we have representatives from the High Speed Rail Authority joining us to provide a presentation regarding conceptually relocating the downtown station to Southeast Merced along the Highway 99 corridor. Tonight's special session came about as a result of the published supplemental project update that was published back in August of 2025. The supplemental report suggested resequencing the Merced Station without providing a reference as to when the Merced Station would be constructed. The report proposed rerouting the high-speed rail line from Madera to Gilroy. Since the high-speed rail Board of Directors meeting of August 28th, Authority board members and staff have met with city council members, city staff, representatives from Merced County, and representatives from MCAG for a total of 6 meetings. To the community members who provided comment at the past high-speed rail board meetings, thank you for your ongoing support. The high-speed rail will be a major economic catalyst for the region. In 2008, Proposition 1A was passed by the voters supporting a high-speed rail system from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Prop 1A called that the train would go through the San Joaquin Valley and the stop would be in Merced. Later in 2022, SB 198 reinforced that a high-speed rail station would be constructed, specifically calling out downtown Merced. Through the discussions with high-speed rail board members and staff, significant progress has been made, and we are more confident now that Merced will remain in the initial phase of the project. I am available for questions. Otherwise, I would like to call Mr. Peter Whippy from the High Speed Rail Authority to the podium. Are there any questions, council?
Thank you, Frank. Any questions for our Deputy City Manager at this time?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you, Frank. We'll proceed with the presentation, and we'll have Mr. Whippy.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, good evening, sir, and welcome, and thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Serrato, Pro Tem Boyle, and members of the City Council, and thank you very much for having me here today. No, sorry about that. Can you hear me now? All right, I was just saying thank you for having me. My name is Peter Whippy. I'm the Chief of External Affairs for the California High Speed Rail Authority, and on behalf of the authority, I very much appreciate your time and engagement over the past months, in particular Mayor Serrato, Pro Tem Boyle, and Councilman Smith, who have engaged with the authority for some months now, and I very much enjoyed the opportunity to meet with every member of the council to discuss today's topic over the past week. I also want to thank City Manager Scott McBride and Deputy City Manager Frank Quintero for their hard work bringing the authority and the city together. Frank, your partnership is greatly appreciated. The topic of today's conversation has been about how Merced is best served as the high-speed rail system advances north. We've talked about trade-offs, we've listened to local priorities, and have tried to understand what different options in terms of infrastructure delivery mean for Merced, both for the city and the council. Now, everything we're discussing here today flows from a very basic question, which is how do we deliver a high-speed rail system that works, is financially viable, and actually reaches communities like Merced. Under new leadership, the authority is focused on building a system that can actually be delivered and delivers real value for the state of California and for the communities it will serve. Financial discipline and a correction in the sequence of infrastructure delivery have been top of mind. We aim to be responsible stewards of the public dollar, and the greatest return on California's investment will be to connect the population centers. This will stabilize the system's finances and bring real benefits to communities like Merced. Looking ahead, this program is poised for real momentum. Today, we are moving from civil works into rail delivery. Our southern railhead is ready for operations. This is the rail yard where we will soon be taking delivery of materials like rail, ties, ballast, overhead catenary poles, and cables to begin building tracks as soon as we bring our track and systems contractor on board as soon as this summer, and that procurement is on the streets today. We've launched a procurement to bring on board a private delivery partner to examine areas of the program, to invest their own private equity and capital, and kick off a true public-private partnership for infrastructure delivery. We've kicked off a similar process to gather feedback from private industry on the power generation and transmission needs for the system, issuing an RFEI for clean power just last week with a similar P3 procurement expected this year. We aim to be substantially finished with 119 miles of civil work stretching from Kern to Madera County by the end of the year, and expect to be laying the nation's first true high-speed rail track before the year is out. So these milestones are important because they move us from building infrastructure to delivering transportation, and that's the context for the station discussion today. So prior iterations of planning in Merced envisioned a downtown intermodal station integrated with Altamont Corridor Express and Amtrak service. Now, as we've discussed over the past month with Mayor Serrato, Pro Tem Boyle, and Councilman Smith, and others, a downtown station brings real challenges. And that's not just for the High-Speed Rail Authority in terms of cost and schedule, which are substantial, particularly in light of the federal funds being revoked by the current administration, but also for Merced itself, particularly the length and intensity of disruption to businesses, residents, and traffic over many years. As noted in the city's background for this meeting, the downtown station would entail the acquisition and relocation of the McCombs Youth Center leased by the Boys and Girls Club of Merced County, the Merced Senior Community Center, businesses such as In-N-Out Burger, Payson and Myers, El Bajillo Market, and others. The authority anticipates several years of severe disruption to the downtown community as a result. Furthermore, the downtown location relies on multiple external systems delivering on similar timelines, which introduces uncertainty that is outside of the city, the county, or the authority's control. What these challenges have led to, in my opinion, is a very productive and cooperative discussion with the city and the county about what an alternative station site might look like, one that ensures Merced is served on time and within the current budget. The area we've identified together is fewer than 4 miles southeast of the downtown location, generally in the vicinity west of 99 and south of Mission Boulevard. The primary advantage here is certainty. It provides a clear, fundable path to bringing high-speed rail to Merced. It avoids years of downtown construction while aligning with areas the city and the county have already identified for future growth. Importantly, it creates flexibility for how Merced chooses to connect locally, regionally, and over time. It also positions UC Merced as a true shared regional asset. UC Merced is the fastest growing UC campus, as you all know, and this option provides opportunities for practical, high-quality connection between the university and the rail system via Campus Parkway. This offers an attractive option to support students, faculty, workforce access, and strengthens Merced's role as a university-centered regional hub. Now, zooming out here for a moment, earlier I talked about the authority's focus on stabilizing the system's finances and that the greatest return on California's investment will be to connect the population centers. In my view, few places stand to gain as much as Merced from the high-speed rail system, but it must be a system that succeeds in connecting California's Central Valley to the population centers, and in doing so, the economic engines of the state. When we at the authority talk about resequencing infrastructure delivery, we do it with a goal in mind to create the flexibility necessary to build faster, smarter, and more economically to connect population centers where the ridership and resulting revenue will sustain the system going forward and ensure stability towards the four-system build-out between San Francisco and Los Angeles and connecting the communities in between. This is the future where Merced is less than 1 hour from Silicon Valley, and this will fundamentally change access to jobs, research, and opportunity. It will mean higher wages spent locally, a stronger UC Merced pipeline, and real commuter choice. Faster connections to population centers strengthens the system overall, and that stability directly benefits Merced. That's the end of my presentation, but I'll just close with, this conversation has been about delivering rail to Merced in a way that is certain, timely, and aligned with how the city and the county want to grow. What we're doing is laying out the trade-offs clearly, listening to local priorities, and understanding what best serves Merced. From the authority's perspective, no decisions are being made here today until we hear back from you. And I appreciate seeing each of you here again today. Your input helps shape how this moves forward, and we want to make sure any path reflects Merced's priorities. So I'm happy to do my best to answer any questions you may have, and I'm look forward to continuing our productive partnership on this effort.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for your presentation. We, since the summer and that the news came out that we all heard, we really, appreciate your partnership, your work, your communications. You guys have been very good partners and very good communicators, and we appreciate all your work on that. So we'll hear from council if there's any questions, and then we have public comment, and then after that, we'll come back to council for discussion and deliberation. So first, any initial questions from our council members? Councilor DuPont.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Whippy, for coming and presenting to the council. I do have a couple questions, and then also would have another discussion, at least on something that wasn't discussed on the slides as well. Have there been any renderings or designs of what the Southeast Merced station would look like?
No. I think, we would want to have some sort of acknowledgement from the city, the county, and the local stakeholders that this is an option that you wish to pursue before we would engage, our resources in putting that together. But happy to share those with you as soon as they become available, if there is a consensus here.
And then you talked pretty extensively about the UC. Have you had any discussions with our partners at the UC?
No, not to date, no.
It'd be interesting to see what the chancellor has to say about the discussion that was had here tonight with the UC. One of the main things that I've been seeing as well, read in the CEO's report on November 20th, is a modification to SB 198. Can you explain to us a little bit what exactly SB 198 is in a nutshell?
Sure. In a nutshell, it's a statutory requirement that the authority may not expend greater than $500 million outside of Merced to Bakersfield, and there are quite a few steps to actually spend that money. And the parameters of that is downtown Merced co-located with ACE and the San Joaquin service to Bakersfield. That would have to be amended for this approach. We have also advocated for amending that in order to free up flexibility to build into those population centers like I've discussed today, and the importance of doing that so that the authority can become financially self-sustainable. I think the greatest challenge of this program is time. We would like to be able to build at the same time into the population centers as we do complete the Merced to Bakersfield segment.
Hey, I mean, you bring up a specific point that I wanted to bring up as well. Under many codes, one in particular, health and safety code section, the definition of Merced to Bakersfield segment specifically says that the rail service in the Central Valley from Merced to Bakersfield with a new combined station in downtown Merced. So essentially you'd have to go change that legislation to be able to move the station from downtown Merced to southeast Merced, correct?
That's right, yeah.
Has there been any discussion on how that change will occur? Is it, through specific legislation that a legislator will carry, or is it through the governor's budget? Has there been any discussion on how that change will occur?
No, not substantially. I think that's something that we would like to engage the city and the county on to make sure that they're comfortable with any changes going forward.
Yeah, one of my concerns is that the city, one of the words I heard that triggered, or at least brought up a red flag in my mind was resequence, you had said. That is a concern, obviously, for myself, is being resequence of any nature of raising the cap, being able to go to, for example, Gilroy, and leaving Merced as being resequenced, because you can spend more money outside of the Merced to Bakersfield track, to where we're now designing a Merced station long after I'm here. That's a major concern for me. So ensuring, because the legislation currently says downtown Merced, which is required under the legislation, required under SB 198, that insurity needs to continue through this, I think, conversation, through this process, because it ensures that Merced is still part of the conversation, still part of the picture, still being referenced to part of this process. So it would be helpful to have language presented to us.
Yeah, of course, happy to work with you on that and make sure that you're a part of that conversation. I don't think what we're attempting to accomplish here is one or the other. I think what we'd like to do is all of the above at the same time. But certainly we'll commit to working with the city, the county, and other stakeholders to make sure that that amendment to the law, if agreed to here conceptually, and then we can start working on it, is something that you are all comfortable with in that position that Merced retains within the operating and the infrastructure delivery timeline.
Because of this transition or potential transition to Southeast Merced, will you have to do any supplemental environmental reviews?
I imagine we would. You will, we'll reach the end of my expertise in what that actually is, but I'm happy to get back to you on what the timelines for that would be. But it is along the existing alignment, which is already cleared.
I have no further questions currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DuPont. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Whippy. I appreciate your making the time to come down here. The public should know that you and your colleague, I think Deputy Chief of Staff Mark Tollison, committed to meeting with all of us last week and with the Board of Supervisors. And as the public knows, as a working group, the full council doesn't get to sit in closed-door meetings with the authority. So appreciate the fact that you understood it was important to bring everybody up to speed, and now we're bringing the public up to speed. You and I had a number of conversations along with Mayor Serrato, Mayor Pro Tem Boyle, and the city staff, but I want to ask a couple more questions to get some more information out there so we can have our discussion. We're talking kind of big picture about Southeast Merced. Can you give us any more information about where the authority is currently thinking a station location might be?
As I indicated, west of Highway 99 and south of Mission Boulevard is our focus.
So outside the city limit currently?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. But needing to be served by areas that are within the city, is that fair?
Yeah, I would agree to that. Yeah.
Okay. So Councilmember DuPont asked you about environmental clearance. Can you give us a sense for kind of where we are in the process of bringing the train to Merced, whether the station's in the southeast or it's downtown?
As of today,
Yeah.
it's downtown.
No. I mean, the train has to come through Merced
Yeah.
County to get here. So
Yes.
we got environmental clearance. Do we have land acquisition? Are we starting those discussions? Kind of what has
Yeah.
to be,
So you
what are the things that have to be taken care of before we can?
Right-of-way
Get the train here.
acquisition, so
Yeah.
you can see the alignment there. It's running, when we get closer to Merced, it runs pretty close to the existing BN track right there. Right-of-way acquisition would have to happen. I would imagine some sort of environmental re-exam on the station site would have to happen, and any sort of mitigations as a result of that.
So pretty much the land acquisition would be adjacent to the Union Pacific line between here and Madera?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I misspoke, yeah, not the BN, the UP line.
The authorities talked about delivering an operational segment between Bakersfield and Merced by 2032?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a sense for if the community, city and county and others agree that the station can move to the southeast, how does that affect your timeline potentially?
Well, this is what we're here discussing, and we're hoping to get your input, your feedback, and incorporate that. If this is something that, you know, you do wish to move forward with, and then we stand ready to engage on all of the planning work that's entailed. You know, if the next step, like I said, would be that, you know, right-of-way acquisition, which we're going to be doing, you know, regardless, but what would change from the downtown station to here is that we wouldn't be going and acquiring and relocating all the downtown businesses. We'd be focusing all of our efforts from Mission Boulevard south.
Potentially the timeline could be shortened then?
Could be, yes. And again, that timeline, it was not something I've mentioned here today, but it does rely on certain other legislative enhancements that, you know, legislative conditions that we put forward during the board meeting. We put forward to the legislature and the administration as well that are necessary to bring some cost and schedule certainty to the work, you know, third-party and utility relocations, and also some additional judicial resources, not for the authority, but just for the courts in order to adjudicate the amount of right-of-way cases that the authority is faced with.
And so right now, you're saying no specific plans have been made or contingencies made with regard to a Southeast Merced station, but you kind of have a sense that if you can avoid the cost of right-of-way and construction downtown, the cost to reduce and the timeline would accelerate?
Yes, it could only accelerate, yes.
Now, thinking about Fresno as a model, obviously bigger city, right? A lot more to do. But how long has the authority been in construction at downtown Fresno?
2015?
Is there a thought about when that construction might be done?
Yeah. Yeah,
Peter, if you want, Diana, if you want,
Yeah.
feel free to come up so our
yeah.
our vast television audience can.
My colleague, Diana Gomez.
So construction in downtown,
Introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, Diana Gomez with the authority. So construction in downtown Fresno started around 2015, and it's projected to be finished later this year in December of 2026.
So 11 years.
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate your input. I don't have any more questions right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Smith. Anybody else? Okay. Just two questions real quick, Peter. One, Councilor Smith asked, but the big thing here is with the station in Southeast Merced, could you estimate how much faster and easier that is for the authority to deliver? I mean, in terms of years, you know, not getting into dollars too much.
Yeah, I would
but-
say 2 to 3 years of construction, and it's a 7-figure price tag.
Probably more than 7. You talking
Oh,
price
sorry.
tag in the billions or?
Yes, in the billions, yes.
So additional costs to the authority of billions of dollars and 2 to 3 years of construction.
Yeah, heavy construction.
And then to the point that Councilor DuPont was making as well, current state law requires, SB 198 requires the station to be in downtown Merced. It specifically says downtown Merced with links to ACE and Amtrak. So that would require, one, you guys would have to, in terms of the process, speaking with us, having these conversations, we're still kind of early on in the process, and then it would require your board and the state legislature and the governor ultimately to sign off on those changes.
That's correct, yeah.
Then finally, there's a lot of, I mean, frankly, a lot of concern and a lot of people kind of scared and disappointed when they heard the news during the summer that we could potentially be cut out of phase 1. But just in our conversations, and you guys have repeated it over and over again, you're still committed to Merced in phase 1A. And because for lack of a better term, the 2032 plan where Merced to Bakersfield is that something you can assure us about right now, that that's still the priority?
Yes, Merced to Bakersfield is what we are statutorily required to build to now. It's like we would like to, to commit to today. And if we, I feel like if we're able to, agree to, a potential southern station, we take all optionality off the table. We're building to Merced.
Okay. Just reaffirming your commitment to Merced and
100%.
reaffirming your commitment to Merced in Phase 1A.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. All right, anybody else? Councilmember Jean.
So kind of piggybacking on Councilmember DuPont's question about the renderings for the new station. So I understand there's no rendering at this point, but with the current downtown station, there was community participation in how that station will look. Is that the intention for the new station as well? Or are we
Yes.
looking-
Yes, although I would just note, one of the things that we are doing, and we have shared this with members of the council, is that at least initially, station infrastructure will be fit to function. There won't be large infrastructure at first, but they are going to be designed to expand over time as the ridership expands as well. This is something that we've addressed up and down the alignment. It's not Merced, it's not unique in this. And I think you'll see with every station going forward, they will start on a smaller footprint and then expand as the ridership that supports that additional space, additional tracks. They'll be designed to accommodate that in the future.
Thank you.
Councilmember DuPont.
Thank you, Mayor. Piggybacking off my colleague's question, you said fit to function. Does that mean we're going to get a platform to begin with?
I think it's more substantial than a platform, but
Okay.
yeah, but it will be designed to increase over time. I think if you take a look at the supplemental project upgrade report, I know you're all big fans of it, but it does show that the ridership, when we are connected to population centers, is an order of magnitude larger. At that point, I think, the station infrastructure would grow commensurate with that ridership.
So it depends on the ridership of the community if you're going to.
That's right. Yeah, we don't want to
Grow the station or
We don't
not.
want to overbuild assets initially. It is, it's a drag on maintenance on O&M. It's an asset that deteriorates that we would have to pay to keep up, as opposed to delivering what is right for the current time and then being able to expand that appropriately over time.
Thank you. Good question. It's got translation in a practical sense. If it's Merced to Bakersfield, the station's one side, but then if it's Merced to Gilroy and Palmdale, a more full build out, then that station's gonna.
That's correct. Yeah.
Councilmember Jean.
Just following up on Councilmember DuPont as well here. So are there a projection of, let's say, 20-year plan with incremental steps of when we're expecting to expand? What are the threshold in which things need to be met?
Yeah, I think that's what we're aiming to publish mid-February in our draft business plan is how the authority is reevaluating, delivering the entire full Phase 1 system from downtown San Francisco to downtown Los Angeles. And, the chronology in which that may take place and the infrastructure and the timelines that we do deliver it. So we do aim to have more of that information out in mid-February with the final plan published in May.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no additional preliminary questions, we'll hear from the public. Jeff.
If I can get the first three speakers to the podium, to my left, Ron Radney, Curtis Thomas, and John Carcos.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. My name is Ron Radney. I'm the current president of Merced Senior Citizens, Inc. We are the nonprofit organization that helped the city fund the building of the Merced Senior Community Center in 1994, and we have managed the senior programs and activities there for the last 31 years. We support relocating the high-speed rail hub to Southeast Merced, not only because it may prevent the future demolition of the senior center at least for the foreseeable future, but it also keeps, because it helps preserve key economic assets such as businesses, currently within the path of the proposed rail, which generate a significant portion of the city's tax revenue. Southeast Merced is where the city's growing, and placing the rail hub there is a decision that benefits both the seniors and the greater community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Radden. Good to see you, sir. Mr. Thomas.
Hello, Council. My name is Curtis Thomas. I'm here as a resident of District 1 and as a fan of both the City of Merced and the high-speed rail project. I'm speaking tonight in support of option B. I want to start with where we're at. I understand that the High-Speed Rail Authority recently stopped a lawsuit for $4 billion in grants, leaving a Merced-shaped hole in their budget. I choose to believe that the authority is negotiating with us in good faith as a partner with a mutual interest in success. I would also like to acknowledge the reality that Mr. Choudhury has displayed a great deal of urgency for beginning construction to the Bay Area as soon as possible. The law as written today requires that Merced be built as part of the interim operating segment, but I suspect that the Rail Authority could obtain changes to that law if they could demonstrate a need, and indeed may already be considering such an attempt. I feel this would be a mistake, not just for our city, but for the authority. It would be quicker to list the cities along the Acela high-speed rail that are bigger than Merced, because we're bigger than most of them, and we're bigger than half the other cities served in the interim operating segment. On the East Coast, our city would already be connected with 2 or 3 interurban trains and high-speed rail. The Madera station is 3 miles outside of their city in an orchard. The Hanford station is likewise situated on the outskirts of town, surrounded only by farms. Merced, Fresno, and Bakersfield are the only cities on the IOS offering a reason to step out of the station. Madera and Hanford have planned transit-oriented development, but I'm skeptical that'll amount to anything more than a few food trucks in the near term. Until the authority finishes tunneling through Pacheco Pass, a feat which they admit contains many known unknowns, the Valley IOS will be the face of California high-speed rail. I worry that cutting the Merced station or reordering it will result in humiliation for the project, because they made half the stops farms, orchards, and empty parking lots before they went off to spend 15 years digging through Pacheco Pass. In the interest of both the city and the long-term well-being of the project, I want to urge city staff to first extract written agreements from the authority promising that if we agree to this change, they will not pursue reordering of Merced out of the IOS. Second, reach out to our state legislators to secure commitments to completing the IOS in full. Third, in order to maximize the value of the Merced station, work with other SJJPA member cities and the state legislature to revive Valley Rail's southern portion and restore the plan to bring ACE to Merced. The most critical thing is this: if we cannot secure commitments for Merced being included in the IOS, we should absolutely not agree to the relocation. Relocation would be a compromise where we both lose a little to win a little. If the authority will force us to wait either way, then we should build the station where it belongs. We need time to make sure that we get this right. Please endorse option B. I also want to close with one note regarding financial viability. Nobody asked Highway 99 to be financially viable.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate your comments, as always. Mr. Carlos, good to see you, sir.
Thank you. I apologize for my voice or lack thereof tonight. Members of the council, Supervisor Pedroso, members of the audience, staff from High Speed Rail, thank you for being here tonight. If I had my druthers, we'd scrap this whole project. However, being somewhat of a realist, I don't think that's likely to happen. So, I'm glad to see people are thinking the way I've been thinking for several years. Don't tear down existing facilities into Merced that are being used. That southeast location is very viable. It's on the line anyway. There are 8 parcels in that area up for sale right now, any or all. And I'm sure it would be cheaper to buy that than it would be downtown Merced. Dealing with bigger government in our city, I tend to say trust but verify. There was a interview on television, 2 o'clock Sunday morning, to where the chief of high-speed rail, Mr. Thathry, was being interviewed, and he repeatedly claimed the trip from Merced from Fresno to San Jose would take 45 minutes. Now, we know there's going to be at least 3 stations in that plan, and unless we're going to subject riders to high G-forces, you're going to have to gradually accelerate your speed from one station, decelerate into the next station, and stop for a few minutes for people to get on and off. So that leaves maybe 30 minutes of actual travel time. Is that realistic? I'm not the expert. I would say the High-Speed Rail Authority is. We need that question answered. Again, I also support option B. The discussion is open. Let us continue the discussion between staff and the rail authority. Get all of our questions answered, and don't settle for, yes, it will be more than a platform. Because a platform with a pergola is more than a platform. It is not acceptable. Again, I support that option B. I think more work needs to be done before everybody can leap into supporting this with both feet. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, Jennifer, next speakers.
Okay, if I can get the next 3 speakers, Keith Ensminger, Robert Delina, and Eric Serrato.
Mr. Ensminger, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure to speak with everybody again. My name for the record is Keith Ensminger. I'm the District 2 representative on the advisory committee for developing the high-speed rail station and the city general plan. I've been conducting meetings with residents in the neighborhood, and I appreciate hearing from you and your plans. One of the things, well, first of all, somebody had mentioned if you'd been in touch with UC Merced, and I understand the chancellor is here. I can't recognize him now, but I have, and the UC Merced Community and Labor Center has conducted surveys over the last number of years about concerns of residents regarding the high-speed rail plan. They just finished that survey and they're about ready to publish it. They're starting a new one to survey Merced residents to see how they would like to see the city develop, and I encourage us to get in touch with them as well. I've asked to be put on the agenda because the directors of that center would like to speak with us on the advisory committee. In talking with people in my groups, there was concern, there was mention that many of the high-speed rail stations are not directed right through the middle of town. And looking that up, that's true. And when they are, they go to existing stations. My oldest daughter and her son are in France right now. They took high-speed rail from Paris to Avignon. Somebody mentioned about the travel time. They left the main station in Paris just east of Notre Dame and took it down to the station in Avignon, which was kind of on the outskirts of town. It took them about 2.5 hours for about a 7-hour drive. And they have freeways in France, real good freeways too. So it will be quite a thing for us. One of the things I would hope, if we do develop this new station on the south of Merced, is that high-speed rail help in the interconnectivity to get people off that train to UC Merced, to ACE, to any other kinds of services we need in town, because we don't need a station where people are just going to hang out in the dust. And that'll happen if there isn't the interconnectivity. And that interconnectivity means that buses or other transits will arrive within, it has to be coordinated, so they arrive within 10 minutes of the train. It doesn't make any sense to have somebody wait around for an hour to get somewhere, and then when they could have just driven and not worried about it. So anyway, thank you for your presentation, and thank you for having me speak.
Thank you for your words, Mr. Inker. Good to see you. Mr. Delano.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for organizing this meeting. Glad to hear some actual, plans on what might actually be happening with rail. As you know, I'm a landowner and a developer, and I have some projects going in Southeast Merced. If all of our plans come to fruition, we're going to bring probably close to 300-400 houses right into this very corridor down in this direction where we're talking about here. This is an interesting opportunity. I feel like if it's done correctly being the key word here, that this could benefit the whole community, especially South Merced. I think the key here is mitigating the impacts in a way that doesn't place an undue burden on the existing homeowners and future homeowners in this area. I'm sure there'll be discussions about some kind of taxing authority surrounding the station. That's a key concern for me. Keeping housing affordable in Merced is a primary focus, especially in South Merced. I feel like if this is done right with the correct infrastructure, this could connect Merced, but the key is to make sure that we're not dividing it. The devil's in the details, so to speak. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what a proposed implementation of this might look like. Now, there were a couple of things that were kind of perked my ears up, and that was simultaneously finishing. I heard that from the representative. Our section of this track and our station, apparently the pared down version, is the easiest section of construction in the whole system. Therefore making it also the cheapest and the fastest. I would prefer personally to see, especially if we're gonna give this concession to help make the system viable, that our section proceed to construction immediately. And then, everything else can catch up in due time. The connection to Gilroy is a massive undertaking that requires miles of tunneling and other things. I don't want to see my community sit on the sidelines and wait till we get 90% of the way to Gilroy to start finishing our section if this is what's going to happen. That being said, relocation obviously makes it cheaper, but it's not devoid of needs of, especially in infrastructure in this area. There's water, sewer needs, transportation up and down Mission Avenue to 59, and connecting to the UC all the way. Right now, Campus Parkway, as you know, stops short thereof. I expect there's probably going to be a lot of traffic, especially from the UC into the station as well. But that being said, again, devil in the details, but I trust that you guys will all make a good decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the respect. All right, Mr. Eric Serrato. Welcome, sir.
Hey. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Supervisor Pedroso. My name is Eric Serrato, and I'm a resident of downtown Merced. I'm speaking here today as president of the Downtown Neighborhood Association. Just a little bit of background. The mission of DNA is to preserve and advance the quality of life for residents in Merced's historic downtown neighborhoods. And so you can imagine that when high-speed rail announced that it was coming to downtown Merced, whether it was the G and MLK or the O and 15th station, we were really excited about it. We saw it as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to revitalize and re-energize the downtown core. We imagined that these kinds of investments would make the downtown core more pedestrian-friendly, and that it would introduce new amenities and developments that would benefit our residents. But context change, and we have to respond to the context that we live in. And so I'm actually here to express DNA support for the move of the station from downtown Merced to Campus Parkway. We've actually been doing a lot of deliberation about that move and see some silver linings in this, even for the downtown area. You heard a little bit about it today. but we see the preservation of some really important assets, whether that is childcare by the Boys and Girls Club or the Senior Center. These are assets that local residents utilize, and they do not have a clear path for relocation at this time. We also see the benefit of moving it closer to a different group of commuters and a stronger connection to the campus. But there's an even bigger silver lining that we see. We have a hunch that the delay in construction of the downtown station has actually led to land banking. We think that there are a lot of property owners that own land and have not developed or transitioned that land to the downtown area in anticipation of what might be a station. We think accelerating the timeline and having clarity and definition about where that station will land will actually release this land and provide the downtown area an opportunity to develop its own plans and create its own amenities in that community. More than anything, we're here to be the wind at the city's back. We want to support you in your leadership, in your decision-making, and really lean in on the future economic growth of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jennifer.
Okay, if I can get the next three speakers, Marilyn Sobel, Eric Ham, and Japjit Singh Apal.
Ms. Sobel, welcome.
Hello, good evening, council members. So I am asking you to support option B. I think under virtually any circumstances, I would be concerned about rushing into a decision of this magnitude. And I think it requires more study, but especially because there are so many unknowns. For example, although people have mentioned UC Merced several times, there have been no discussions with UC Merced. We have no idea what the opinion of UC Merced is or UC Merced students, and yet the whole reason to move the station is because of UC Merced. So that seems like a mistake to me. I live in North Merced. To get to the Amtrak station takes about 45 minutes. Walk to the bus stop, wait for the bus, take the bus. It doesn't stop at the station, not the bus stop that's close to me. And so then you walk from the bus stop to the Amtrak station. How are people going to get there, okay, if it's moved to Southeast Merced? Is Merced planning to run more bus lines? How much is that going to cost the city? What exactly are you going to do? Are you expecting everybody to drive? Won't that add a lot of pollution to a part of the city that's already very polluted? And, you know, I don't think anybody has actually thought about these issues. That's why it's important to take option B, have a task force study this carefully, think about it carefully. Wherever the station is put, it's going to be there for 50 years, 100 years, forever. You know, it's worth it to spend the extra money to have it in downtown because that's where, you know, already people are. If we're talking about getting a large number of commuters there, if we're talking about making the high-speed line viable, surely we want to situate it in a place where we already know a lot of people are going to be, a lot of people are going to come, a lot of people have transportation and ways to get there. If we are putting it far outside of town, we have to find a way to deliver people to that station. And if we're unsuccessful in doing it, then ridership is going to be small. So these are some of the factors that I have you consider. And I do have to ask, why did it take, 15 years to suddenly notice that it's a bad idea to have the station in downtown Merced? like, didn't we figure this out before now? I mean, why did we not object in the first place to, having to, inconvenience businesses? Again, I live in South Merced, North Merced. The businesses were incredibly inconvenienced near where I live while they repaired the road to Yosemite. You know, they're still working on it. It's still going to cause traffic reductions. These are the kinds of things that we accept normally when we see something that is going to, create a better city for us, which I certainly think the high-speed line will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marilyn. Mr. Ham.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. There's no doubt that the high-speed rail station is going to be an economic boon to wherever it's located. And I think that's why initially when it was planned to be located in downtown Merced, There was a lot of positivity, there was a lot of rejoicing around that because a vibrant downtown is critical to a community's health. In fact, you guys identified it as one of your priorities for the year, coordinate high-speed rail, ACE train, and other projects that may serve as economic engines for downtown Merced. That's January 12th, and your New Year's resolution's hanging by a thread right now. So I understand that there's a very difficult conversation. There's a lot of things at play here, and the best decision for us is probably going to need to be discussed ad nauseum. And if it ends up in Southeast Merced, and that's what you guys decide and what the community decides is best, I can live with that. But I did do a little analysis today. I pulled the property tax records for the 7 contiguous APNs that make up the new Campus Parkway development. Next, I pulled the tax bills for the marketplace at Merced, the Merced Mall project. And then finally, I pulled the tax record for the 6 APNs on the downtown block between Main Street and N Street, where the newest development in downtown has occurred, the block that's bookended by the by the El Capitan Hotel and the Mainzer. Quickly, the Merced Mall generates just over $322,000 in property tax revenue, sits on 27.43 acres. That works out to just under $12,000 an acre in property tax. Campus Parkway generates $292,000 in total property tax revenue, sits on 8.3 acres, $35,000 an acre. Downtown Merced generates $274,000 in total property tax revenue on 1.4 acres, which is $195,000 an acre in revenue to the city. So downtown Merced versus Campus Parkway, 5.57 times the property tax revenue versus the Merced Mall, 16.67 times the revenue. So in other words, a healthy downtown is a cash cow. Not only that, if you locate outside of the current city limits, the High-Speed Rail Authority saves money. We bear the cost of extending sewer lines, water lines, excess, and needing more police, needing more fire. That's all becomes our burden. So in essence, what I'm getting to is I don't envy the position that you guys are in, our city council. You have a tough decision to make. We're being asked to move our downtown station, one that we spent 15 plus years and untold amounts of money planning for. But I do wonder, is the High-Speed Rail Authority going to pass on any of the massive savings they will receive or any of the massive value they're going to strip from our downtown by relocating the station?
Thanks, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, city staff, and the public. First things first, it's been a minute. It's good to see everybody. Saw a lot of folks today that I haven't seen in a good amount of time, so appreciate those of you that said hi. I'll catch the rest of you after the meeting. As it relates to high-speed, I didn't say my name, did I?
Everybody.
So apologies, jumping a little far ahead. Japjit Singh Gopal, lifetime resident of Merced County, UC Merced alum, and get to serve on our city council in Livingston. As you all know, the city is very supportive of high-speed rail getting to Merced. We have an ACE train coming eventually. I don't know if anybody knows exactly when at this point, but an ACE train coming eventually with the intention of connecting to high-speed rail. So we are very supportive of this project. We support the work that the city's done to bring this forward and the authority for coming out tonight, sharing alternatives to move forward faster, potentially more efficiently, and getting this done overall. Personally, just a big believer in passenger rail in the public infrastructure and doing whatever we need to do to fight the political and the bureaucratic hurdles to get this done. I'd be lying if I said that I'm as in the weeds of the specifics of whether or not we move to Southeast Merced or not. Generally do like the idea of saving a bunch of money, accelerating our timeline. I think that helps us sell the project, not just to those that continue to oppose it, but at the state level where we know this is gonna get. But ultimately, I'll leave it to you all as a staff, as a public, and as a council who've spent a lot more time on this, have a better idea of what decision is gonna help this get move forward, and make sure that we can get this done. On our side, I've already been to one meeting in Sacramento. I know you guys have done a ton of lobbying, but we're happy to continue to be supporters in that sense, sending letters, going to lobby in Sacramento, whether we need to do stuff in DC. I mean, I don't know how many donuts we're going to need to bribe the entire legislature and the governor, but we'll do what we need to do to get this done. Again, we're big believers in the project. We appreciate the work that's being done on this, and we want to see this move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your work and your support. Now, it's a good reference to you coming to the High Speed Rail Authority Board and brought some donuts from the city of Livingston, which did not hurt our cause. Jenna.
Okay, if I can get the next three speakers, Andrea Uribe, Edward Flores, and Gino Cui.
All right, welcome, Andrea.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Andrea Uribe, and I'm a land use and policy advocate for Leadership Council. Through our organization, we have monthly community meetings, particularly with South Merced residents. And I'm interested in the presentation that was brought forth to us, and I still have a lot of questions and a lot of concerns, and I'm trying to come in with an open mind and learn everything that we need to see that will be best for the community. I'm thankful for the gentleman that provided concern for the facilities that would be placed out of commission if the station was moved to South Merced, if the station was not moved to South Merced. However, the concern for the preservation of these facilities does not seem to be the main motivator or driver of the shift for the station if it's relocated. I heard a lot about saving time and money. However, will cheaper and faster be better for the residents of Merced, for all of the residents, for all of the communities? While Mr. Witter was up here presenting, I also saw within one of the slides that there would now be no disruption to downtown Merced. Does this just mean that the disruption will be shifted to South Merced? And will we approve this? Is this something that the City Council wants to support? Additionally, I saw no other reports about environmental impacts that would be caused by relocating the station. As one of the speakers before me mentioned, wherever the station is located, it will create more traffic. Additionally, why would it be cheaper to build in South Merced? Is it because there's less right-of-ways to be needed? And is that because there's already less sidewalks and less lighting and less resources within the community of South Merced? And how will the funds that were supposed to be implemented and funneled into the downtown station, how will these be shifted out to South Merced or wherever the station is relocated? Because I agree, funds and economic vitality are important and they should be implemented into the city of Merced, and there's a need across the city. However, South Merced is already a disadvantaged community, and it is an environmental justice community. So before the city decides to make any decisions, I think that we deserve to be more informed. How will the VMT analysis differ? How will the air quality? Will there be noise pollution? How will the economic vitality of the communities change? So for these reasons, I ask you to go with option B for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. All right, who's next? That Eugene. Good evening.
Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to have everyone participate in this. I'd like to recommend B, option B. So my name is Gino Cui. I was president of the Farm Bureau back in 2012 to 2014, and I think Diane here, Gonzalez, was at every meeting I went to, monthly meetings, because the Merced County Farm Bureau and the Madera Farm Bureau sued because they were going through all this ag land. And we thought, why are they not going up Highway 5? They're going right through all the ag land. And it ended up being probably a can of worms and a lot of expense. We had dairies with Laguna on one side and milking area on the other side of where the high-speed rail was going to go. We had roads that were going to be closed. It would take 8 miles to go around to your property, to the other side of your property. So anyway, we've been through the trenches, and I'm glad to see you're still at it, Diane. So I'm a farmer, and I am concerned. I've been concerned about going over Pacheco Pass. We have reservoir on Pacheco Pass, And that dam now, I was reading, it's going to cost possibly $5 billion because of seismic activity. And they're going to have to put a long tunnel through that mountain. So I have been concerned when they decided to go that way, and I know there's politics, we live in a political world, but I think it should still go over Ultimate Pass. So that is going to be a big expense, and if high-speed rail thinks that maybe they're going to save money, I question that. I believe that we need to go through Merced. As I said, B option, I definitely feel we need to go with. I have concerns about the development, about Mission. I know there's been talk about making that the area for doing something like Turlock, where we have industrial park or, a lot of businesses. That's a floodplain. We have 4 creeks that go through our city. We're not like Turlock in a lot of cities. We have 4 creeks, and that water has to go someplace, and it's not going to stop with the way we have our extreme weather patterns. So I have real reservations of building out away from the city, I believe, like Strong Towns. I'm one of the administrators for a Strong Towns movement here in Merced. I highly recommend people look at strongtowns.org. It's a North American organization. We need to build in the cities and get people where we can walk, ride bikes, and get out of the cars. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Floor is yours, sir.
So my name is Edward Flores. I'm a resident of North Merced, and I'm here to speak because I think this is we see this project as one of the most significant in our lifetime. This is the high-speed rail in California is the largest infrastructure project in the wealthiest nation in the world, and it's in the county with the lowest median earnings in the state. The UC Merced is part of the most prestigious public university system in the world. And the UC Merced Community and Labor Center is the largest labor center serving a rural area. There was a study that was done with climate funds from the state, which funded the Community and Labor Center's Valley Plan. It was a scientific survey on residents' attitudes on the high-speed rail here in Merced. It was a survey done on 4 contiguous disadvantaged census tracts where the new station is being planned, where the station was being planned in downtown, carried out between October and December in 2024. There were 407 responses. This was a random representative with a 5% margin of error. The study was posted today, so we could send the link. And so the title of it is High-Speed Rail Community Preferences and Public Participation in Merced Station Development. And there's really 2 important findings with scientific backing. That residents are largely very supportive of high-speed rail development in downtown, and that they would like more engagement. And so I'll just share a couple of the findings. A majority said that they're aware of the projects and that they would definitely or probably use high-speed rail once it becomes operational, that they would use it to visit family or friends, for traveling or leisure, attending events or activities, connecting to other forms of public transit. And jobs are, really important. The local community sees this as an opportunity for job development. But just to add to the points that were made by previous speakers, a majority, 60%, felt that this would provide enhanced transportation options for residents. So think about connectivity and enhanced transportation. Please keep this in mind as you vote, that residents are largely very supportive of this initiative, and that a vast majority, 90%, are in favor of extensive community engagement. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Jennifer, next speaker.
Those are all the speaker cards we had, Mayor.
All right, is there anyone else who'd like to be heard on this item? Okay, if anybody, please fill out a green request to speak form if you'd like to speak. Okay, next speaker.
Hello, my name is Ren Shields. I'm a resident of South Merced. I have a lot of questions about where this relocation might be. I think we should be able to see pictures of this area. Like, I imagine it's somewhere near the fairgrounds, but I have no idea. And without really being able to tell where this supposed like relocation area is, how are we really supposed to give our 2 cents about it? I would like to know more information. I'd like to see an actual picture of the area, know if anything's already there, and figure out what the impact of just moving this whole thing over there would be. I know where I live in South Merced, we already have a lot of noise pollution, a lot of air pollution, a lot of difficulties in getting further into town. For me, there's only one bus line that I can take that will take me into town. And to get to my closest grocery store, it takes 2.5 hours, and I have to take 2 buses. And it's really hard. There's a lot of needs in South Merced that I haven't felt have been addressed at all. I hope that if we do move the high-speed rail to South Merced, it will give us, the city council, more of an excuse to add things to South Merced, to make it a better place. There are a lot of people who live in South Merced, but we have so little. No grocery stores, no like shopping stores, no clothing, or very little. You know, there's a lot of industrial things where I live, and I would like to see a lot more. You know, I think we deserve it. I think we have a lot of space in South Merced that could be put to good use, and a lot of people who would love to see South Merced developed. I think the high-speed rail is really important. We need it no matter where it is. I would hope that we don't get rid of the senior center and the Boys and Girls Club, especially because I haven't heard anyone say anything about where we would relocate those two, if the community, like the city council, is going to help. If the city council helped fund the construction of the Boys and Girls Club or the senior center in the first place, I think you should talk about what you're planning on doing to help relocate those places as well. But that is it. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good one.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments. All right, next speaker.
Okay, if I get the next speakers, Chancellor Munoz, Patty Vasquez, and Rosie Campagna.
Thank you, Jennifer. Chancellor Munoz.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'll do my best to be brief. I want to just,
First.
I've heard, I beg your pardon?
No.
I've heard a great deal mentioned about the University of California, Merced, and I believe I, at the moment, enjoy the authority to speak on its behalf. And I would just say that it's been my understanding from many, many years ago that the university has always been supportive of this particular amenity being brought to Merced. And I think that what you hear, I hope the authority is hearing, is continued interest in the rail, high-speed rail in Merced. I think the young man earlier indicated the IOS was the nomenclature that he used in the original sort of schedule in phase 1. You heard just a few minutes ago Dr. Flores talk about a survey through his center of people that continue to be supportive, enthusiastic about the connectivity and the viability of this particular amenity here. I believe that obviously anything that helps the city and region thrive is beneficial to the university. There's been always great support for the rail to come here, and the university, I think, has been part of that conversation. We have just over 9,000 students. We have a few thousand faculty and staff. We're building a very substantial medical enterprise. We hope to bring other facilities online. We have an experimental farm. There's just no doubt that there will be additional people on the campus, around the campus, for whom this this will be a viable mode of transportation. Somebody has said, have you spoken to the, we've never met before, I don't know, so we certainly have never spoken, but I just want to express my willingness to, as you heard Dr. Flores, be part of the community that has conversations. You have a decision to make, but we're very supportive of this coming to the city, and you have several options. Obviously, you heard earlier that the more viable, feasible, affordable, perhaps in terms of timeliness schedule is something that you have to consider as stewards of the public good. But I just wanted to indicate our willingness to be engaged with you and others to ensure that I think, as Councilman Dupont indicated, that there is no doubt that the high-speed rail will have a stop in Merced. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Ms. Vasquez.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. I'm just here to reinforce I support the high-speed rail being moved to South Merced. I think it'll be easier. It will also give opportunities not just to the UC, but to that side of town. My only concern or request with that is over the last years, we have not invested in downtown knowing that the high-speed rail was coming. So my request will be that we get downtown Merced caught up with that infrastructure, roads, sewer, water, and all those things that will still be needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Ms. Campagna. Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Rosie Campagna, and I live and work in Merced, Districts 5 and 2. I'm here to speak on the high-speed rail station decision and the proposed relocation. I'm in support of option B because this is one of those decisions that will shape Merced long after all of us are gone. And I believe we owe it to the community and future generations to slow down and to truly understand the long-term impacts. Our city's history shows that major development decisions have long-lasting consequences. A clear local example is how retail and investment shifted away from downtown after the development of Merced Mall and other developments where things were built farther apart and people had to drive everywhere. For decades, activity followed parking lots and traffic instead of people and walkable places. We do have buses, but most people still have to drive, park, and then walk, and many streets and sidewalks don't work well for people even using wheelchairs. That's why where and how we place the station really matters. And if the high-speed rail station is being considered for relocation, then what happens around it is just as important as where it lands. If the station is relocated, especially onto less developed land, like areas around South Merced, for instance, we need to be very intentional so we don't default to growth designed around parking and traffic instead of walkable places for people, including those using wheelchairs. I also believe Merced has an opportunity here to step up and be thoughtful and proactive. If cost savings are driving this conversation, then all reasonable corridor options for how the rail approaches Merced should be studied openly. Exploring an alignment along State Route 140 and bringing Caltrans into the conversation early feels like a reasonable option worth studying, especially given Merced's role as the gateway to Yosemite. At a minimum, I strongly support directing staff to conduct deeper analysis before committing Merced to a decision that will define our city for decades. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Anyone else? Gloria, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Gloria Valdovinos. I'm the Executive Director to the Downtown Merced Partnership, as well as the Visit Merced, which is the Tourism Improvement District. I want to start by thanking the city for the investment you've made through the PBID and the TBID. Those systems exist because this council chose to invest in Merced as a place people want to visit, spend time, and build a future in. I also want to acknowledge something important. I understand why the South Merced option feels appealing. It avoids demolition, it's faster, and it reduces conflict. Those are all real considerations. But this decision is not just about making construction easier. It's about where Merced puts its future. A high-speed rail station, it's not just a transportation project. It's an economic engine. An economic engine only work when they are placed in real active places with businesses, housing, culture, and walkability. If the station is built downtown, every visitor stepping off that train is connected to our restaurants, our small businesses, our hotels, our cultural spaces, and our streets. That creates ongoing long-term investment where Merced already has infrastructure and identity. If the station is moved to South Merced, we may get a faster build, but we also get a station that is separated from our city center by distance, parking, and major roads. That makes it harder for visitors and riders to naturally flow into downtown and experience what Merced has to offer. We will live with this decision for decades. The state will finish construction and move on, but Merced will be left with whatever pattern of growth we choose today. I urge you to keep the high-speed rail station in downtown where it can actually do what it was meant to do, help build a stronger, more connected, and more vibrant Merced. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. All right, Jennifer, any other speakers?
Those are all the cards we had, Mayor.
Okay, seeing no additional speakers, that's the conclusion of public comment, and we'll take it back to council for discussion and for action. Right. Again, as everybody stated, this is a lot of information. A lot of this is new, certainly a lot to chew on, but we're still early to an extent. I think, no matter what we do tonight, there's still a state law that requires the station to be downtown, so that law would have to be modified. The authority and would have to get the support of the state legislature to do that. Again, still early. I think a big point too that wasn't quite stated or fleshed out, but which is again an elephant in the room too, is the status of the ACE and the Amtrak projects. Those are way behind schedule, underfunded. So the initial kind of dream of having a joint station for all three systems downtown is essentially out of the question right now. It's not realistic at all. And this is, in part, one of the reasons for the plan, because the funding and the timeline of those projects is so far delayed that there's no realistic time frame for delivery of those projects as well. So high-speed rail for us in terms of new passenger rail development and the existing Amtrak San Joaquin's or now Gold Runner service is the primary two games in town. All right, Councilmember Harris. Do we have additional questions and or comments from council? What's on your mind, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. So we've got so many unanswered questions. I can't see doing anything but an analysis. We've gone from we're putting a station downtown. Oh my God, what are we going to do with Costco and what are we going to do with In-N-Out and all the construction and inconvenience to we're not getting anything. We're out of the loop completely and we're going to get bypassed to we're back in the loop, but we're looking at a different station. So all those came upon us fairly quickly. I support option B. There's just too many unanswered questions now and too many options to vote to support or oppose right now.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Boyd.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few questions. And for staff, if we were to direct you guys to provide the analysis, how long do you think that would take?
Councilmember, that's a great question. I would actually prefer if we were able to do B and C concurrently. I think without the support of the subcommittee, which you've been part of, we're gonna need your assistance to kind of deliver this. Let's be honest. We are trying to deliver your budget. You're going into your town halls, your priorities. This is a very important decision for you to consider. But this is not the only important decision you've got coming up in this new year. And so this is a very important policy decision for you, but it's not the only thing that we're trying to take on. So we have to balance this. So I really think doing B without having support of the subcommittee would be irresponsible. So although I've heard a lot of people say B, I think if you do, you need to have B and C done concurrently to really give you the effect that you need to make a good decision. So I think that would be what we need to do. I think the authority is trying to get something back from the city in time for their business document. I think that's going to be your challenge, is trying to get them that they can have something representative of the city in time for inclusion in their business plan. I think that's the deadline they're looking for. That's going to be the challenge that we're going to have to work around.
And Mr. McBride, that document is due in May, is that correct?
The document is due to the legislature in May. The draft is due out in mid-February.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, Mayor Pro Tem Ploy?
Yes, so there were some questions about the potential site. It's not developed. I know we have approved quite a bit of housing. I know that there's a retail, a commercial. Would this be developed at the same time, say it was approved for the site selection, and what would that look like for Merced?
So our staff is extremely good at looking at a new development project and figuring out what it's going to take to make it work. And so we have a lot of experience doing that. We've probably got 13 or 14 current annexations or proposed annexations. We would treat this project just like all those. So we have master plans for sewer, master plans for water. We'll work with the authority on what they need to look at to make that happen. It'll be technical to support the project. What we can't do is going to be address some of the issues about longer term planning issues in the current station area and kind of looking at some of the longer term planning for around it. Like that'll have to be addressed in the general plan update process, right? As far as technical, what does it take to support the station? What infrastructure are we lacking? What do we need to support it? We can do a great job with that. I have no doubt about that. And there are gaps. There are definitely things that need to be addressed, and we can work with the authority and we can get that turned around with the support of the subcommittee. I know we can do that. There's no doubt in my mind.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I have a question for High Speed Rail, if possible. I don't know if they can speak again or answer any questions?
This is questions.
Thank you.
Continued questions from us and discussion.
Someone had a question about kind of like why was this site selected? Why not Highway 140 when it has the connectivity to the Amtrak already? So I just didn't know if they wanted to speak on that.
Yeah, Mr. Whippy or Ms. Gomez, are you guys available to speak on the the current UP line and that right away, which is currently environmentally cleared versus the BNSF line, which
I think
one is not.
That gets to the point of it, is the current alignment is environmentally cleared. So we are ready to build. That's really the impetus for the site selection, is it's along the alignment, wouldn't require a new environmental process. I think building a station on the alignment would, require a supplemental or re-exam. I apologize, I am not a planner. Something along those lines, but certainly not the extensive and very time-consuming process would be to change the alignment entirely.
If we go back to the slide too, it can show the alignment and essentially how you're coming up the UP line from the Central Valley. Yeah, there's the Y, and then.
Yeah, so the alignment, when it leaves Madera, it comes along State Route 152 and just turns on Avenue 11. And when it hits State Route 99 just before, it then will sit right along the UP on the west side of the UP tracks. But I think the question you had asked is why did we pick the downtown site?
The site off Mission Avenue.
Oh, why we picked that site?
Yes.
So between after when we start getting into Merced, that's where we start seeing a lot of the impacts and the construction, how long it would actually take. There's quite a significant amount of structures that would have to be built. And that's where you end up with significant amount of construction time and also the cost. And so that's where we thought we would be looking at, in a sense, stopping the significant requirements as we get into Merced.
Thank you. I have no more questions.
Okay, anybody else? Next speaker. Okay, Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's possible that I see the issue before us differently than my colleagues, but that happens.
You're smarter than us.
No, I don't know about that. I think it's unfortunate and a little bit unfair that everybody in the room kind of has a different level of familiarity with the issue. I think it's certainly clear that 4 of my colleagues have not had the benefit of studying this issue as much as the mayor and the mayor pro tem have. I think they would be justified in being a little reticent to feel like they have all the information. I certainly think our community does not have all the information. Communication has been difficult. There were the holidays. And I think for a lot of people, they're hearing this for the first time between now and 72 hours ago. So I do think we need to be sensitive to that. And I think that probably is the reason why people are gravitating towards kind of tabling this for more analysis. Here's my concern. We don't need staff to analyze this issue. We need the High-Speed Rail Authority to analyze the issue. I don't know what Scott and Frank and Jennifer are going to do different. We need to give the authority an indication of whether or not they should put resources into telling us what a station move means. And I think it has to happen today. I mean, this all started, I'm going to acknowledge my colleague over there, Mr. Patton, Merced Focus, you guys should be reading it. I first heard about this when he let me know that maybe there was a report saying we were off the map. That was 4 months ago. So I don't see where a delay really helps us anymore. I do think that a firm answer shouldn't come from this council today. But I don't know that we're going to be able to get to the point that we all want to be at, where we have something firm to evaluate unless we're willing to signal where we are. I think that's just the reality. This is how I see it. When I heard that we were maybe being, quote, resequenced out of the high-speed rail map entirely, you guys know I hit the roof. And I really pushed the envelope when I disclosed that fact to the community during council comments. The realtors, the boosters, other community groups have heard me talk about this. My original position was there's no way in hell I'm going to sit by and let the station move from downtown, because we're going to have 3 train lines coming to downtown. I've got multiple business people inside and outside of Merced who have invested in the station coming downtown. Those are investment-backed decisions. The city has been holding back on development for over a decade. Let's get what we're owed. Let's get what we were promised. Do you guys remember the high-speed rail presentations with the nice, shiny station? Turns out it was a comic book. Here's the reality. The ACE and the Amtrak trains are not coming to downtown. Now, somebody might disagree with me, but you all know I'm not an English major. I was a biochemist in college. We have to understand the difference between thermodynamics and kinetics. Thermodynamics is the energy in a chemical reaction. Kinetics is the speed with which the reaction happens. I have no doubt that the energy that Merced will receive from a Southeast Merced station will be reduced. But it might actually happen before I pass away. And I want the people in this room to be able to benefit from high-speed rail if I could at all have that happen. So if we're talking about a station in downtown solely for high-speed rail, with no plan for it to continue to Sacramento in my lifetime, do I want to put the authority to the time and the expense of spending, this is our money too, guys, to build a downtown station, but also tear up my downtown like Fresno was torn up for over a decade? And what are we going to do with the senior center and the Boys and Girls Club? And what are you going to do about the traffic impacts on 16th Street? And guys, I know more than was discussed today. I'm really hesitant to do that just for high-speed rail. I think that we can build a more reasonably scoped station in Southeast Merced that doesn't go with those existing neighborhoods, so that we can all benefit from the economic and, well, the environmental impacts too in our lifetimes. What comes with that, though, are going to be significant compensation and benefits for the city of Merced. So, I mean, these would be the talking points, right? If I'm negotiating this, what are the things I want to see? Well, I don't want to see the burden of plumbing a Southeast Merced station falling on the city. I want to see a new fire station in Southeast Merced. I want to see provision for police resources. I want to see us fix Mission Boulevard so we've got a legitimate connection to the Merced Regional Airport. I want to see new taxing authority for the city. I want to see economic opportunity zones for the city. I want to see dollars to finish Campus Parkway so it gets all the way to UC Merced. These are the things that we can ask for if we put ourselves in a position where we have leverage. The authority has told us that they're not going to be able to build a downtown. We have to hear that. They haven't said that. I'm not going to hold them to that. This is my read of the tea leaves. So if we don't signal support for partnering with them to move the station to Southeast Merced, my concern is we get nothing. And what do we get by hanging on to the dream of the downtown station? That's not clear to me. I wrote a letter in 2016 to the High Speed Rail Authority Board when I was just me. Remember at that time we got kicked off of the line too? Well, community output like this got us back, but we really weren't any closer to getting a station, it turns out. So I think the new folks at the authority are serious about delivering a train, and we've got an opportunity to partner with them. But I think we need to signal support to partner with them and make this make more sense for everybody, but withhold any final judgment until we see what they're talking about and we can work through all of these issues. And I'll just stop by saying that I think it is remarkable that we've got 7 essentially volunteer people up here to make this decision. And I don't think it's an overstatement to say that everybody from the governor on down to the county is waiting to see what we decide. So this group signaling support without making any final commitments, I think is going to go a long way to putting our city in a position where we can negotiate any changes in such a way that benefits our residents to the maximum extent possible under the circumstances.
Agreed. Councilmember DuPont.
Thank you, Mayor. Well put, Councilmember Smith. You know, I haven't been deeply entrenched like our subcommittee, but have been on many discussions and many communications with community members and really our local elected officials in the state. And while I love the move to Southeast Merced because it benefits my district, I also had to take a step back and say, what is the benefit to the city of Merced? And the benefit, and really the issue that I see is, for years, long before I was even thought of being on council or really probably still in high school, the discussion has always been downtown Merced. You would come in, they'd do their presentations, and it would be this grand station in downtown Merced. I mean, still in all the pictures that is used throughout the Central Valley of this is what Merced Station is going to look like. And that same vision needs to go into the Southeast Merced Station if you're wanting the support of moving to Southeast Merced. Because it shouldn't be, well, we're doing this to save money. Dana just said, we picked this location because this is where the largest impacts start going into the city. She's talking about the environmental document. So you get to reduce your environmental impacts into the city, which means cost savings. What is that cost savings? Well, in the environmental document, they're required to replace the Boys and Girls Club and the Senior Center. That's just one aspect of the environmental document. So what does that mean? Well, you're gonna reduce your impacts. Mr. Ropey said we're gonna save billions with a B at the cost of the citizens of Merced and on our backs. And I want to support going to Southeast Merced because I think it's the best location. But the authority has to be able to come to the table and say, we recognize those impacts. We recognize what has happened over decades of planning. The urban decay that is starting to happen in downtown. We recognize that. And as such, there will be due compensation. We heard about connectivity. We have a Mission Avenue that I arguably would say is the worst street in Merced. And if you haven't traveled it, go travel it, and then we can debate it. That needs to be fixed. Number one. Number two, we talked about connectivity to the UC. Yet Campus Parkway is not there yet. That needs to be finished before you can argue we're creating connectivity to the UC. We're creating better travel. This is just really scratching the surface of the discussion we need to have. We talk about critical infrastructure, water, sewer, streets, roads, none of which I've looked at ad nauseum in Southeast Merced, none of which reach this station location or proposed station location, south of Mission. And we haven't even had the discussion of this isn't within the city limits. What does that mean? Is the authority going to foot the bill to bring it into annexation and into the city limits? Or is that expected on the city? That's direct costs to our residents. So again, I said this in my meeting with the authority. There is more questions than answers. And I like it going to Southeast Merced, but until some of these questions are really answered and there's a willingness to come forward to say, I understand the impacts that is happening to Merced, then we really can't have a conversation. And lastly, we have to stop playing this cloak game with SB 198. We talk about partnership. When the report came out, the authority kept on saying, we want to be partners. We want to be better at communicating with you. Well, this is the time to be better at communicating with us. Tell us what you're going to do. If you're going to take it through legislation, through a legislator, tell us. Show us the language and show us early. Because that legislation in SB 198 ensures us that we are a part of this project. And all the questions of if we go to Gilroy or if they go to Gilroy go away because there's legislative insurity. But you have to come talk to us and do it now. If you're going to do a trailer bill, then tell us. Then we're prepared. But again, if you're going to change SB 198 and the CEO himself has said, we're going to do SB 198 modifications in not only multiple articles that I've read, but in his own CEO report, then let's have the conversation. Let's talk about it now. And now let's not wait. Because even if we were to say no to moving to Southeast Merced, you're still going to do SB 198 modifications. So why wait? Let's have the conversation.
Okay, thanks, sir. Additional comments, Councilor Smith.
Yeah, just real quick, I want to echo that I agree with everything Councilmember DuPont just said, and I appreciate you bringing up an important point. So yes, I don't know if compensation is the word, but recognizing that decisions have been made and opportunities have been lost with regard to downtown. I think all that for me is on the table, and I completely agree with you. We need to be able to have more of a real conversation with the authority, with the state, to find out what are we talking about? All I would say, just to reiterate, is that in my view, we are in a better position to get to that spot by at least signaling that we're interested in having the conversation at the end of the rainbow. Excuse me, I almost said the railroad. This council, kind of like a pre-annexation discussion, if it all checks out and we see the deal we want to see and it makes sense for our residents, that we'll be supportive. I think we're in a stronger position to do that today if we signal support. I don't see what further analysis to me is not the way to go.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we are signaling support just by continuing on, just by not saying we oppose it. I think what we're asking for is exactly what Councilmember DuPont is asking for, is we want some details. We want to know, what are we going to get out of this? What do we want out of this? Those things are not clear to us right now, but need to be made clear. I do support Mr. McBride's combination to get the subcommittee involved to maybe define the parameters that we want to send back to the authority and say, we want to know who's going to take care of the infrastructure, who's going to extend Campus Parkway, what are we going to do for public safety. That's not so much an analysis as it is just definitions of what we want to see and what we're going to agree on. And to say, well, we can partner with you on this, or we'll take this on our own. I think a vote to support leaves us weaker today than it would by going out and coming back with hard items that we want to present to them.
All right, thank you, sir. I'll jump in. I mean, I disagree on that. I think a vote of support leaves us in a better position. Excuse me, I think we can do the vote to support, and we should do the vote to support with, somewhat of a light version or even a more robust version of B in terms of studying it, because there's still, High-Speed Rail years back gave us a $500,000 grant. It's roughly, I think we spent, Frank knows the exact number, I think it's $268,000 spent on that grant, meaning $232,000 remaining. That money can be repurposed to study this area. In addition to that, we should go back to the authority and ask for more money to study the area and perform and have a comprehensive land use plan. So I think I'll provide more detailed comments later, but I think the right approach is to signal support today. It's important to the authority to have that support now, I think, because of their timeline with the business plan coming up. We want to be in this business plan. We want to have clear idea in that business plan, because that's going to set forth their work for the next few years. Then after that, there's money already there for station area planning. We use that to really perform a detailed analysis. We insist on obviously much more than a platform. I don't know if anybody from the authority has been in the Central Valley during the summer. It gets a little hot. So we need air conditioning. We live on this valley, does not exist without air conditioning. So we need a station at the very minimum, to what consistent with what the Amtrak station is now, and hopefully bigger and with more amenities. So I think we insist on that. We insist on good station area planning. The authority has some preliminary land use plans around the station area. Again, very preliminary. They're going to need power generation from a solar field. They can use some of that power generation to provide potentially lower cost energy to parts of town. And then there's also, mixed use, other development around there. That area is very close to a part of Merced that we're off Mission, with Community Park 42 coming online, with the new development that Mr. Delina referenced earlier coming online as well. It's an area ripe for development. And then on the other side of the freeway is Campus Parkway. And you potentially could have really good, we've already had conversations with Merced County Association of Government. I think that comment was made earlier, whether or not we've had last mile connection discussions. There has been, whether it's to the UC, whether it's to Yosemite via YARTS, or whether it's local connections through the bus. Those are important last mile connections we have to work on. And then, as was mentioned earlier, Councilmember Smith, Councilmember DuPont all made a big point about this. I agree 100%. We need support, and that's not necessarily going to come from the authority. It could come from the state, and it probably should come from the state. You look at the precedent that was set in Fresno. Fresno received $250 million from the state out of the budget to support downtown development. That's a very good precedent for us. Also, too, I spoke to Congressmember Gray earlier. He said he's already trying to get in the governor's ear on this with Assemblywoman Soria as well and others. Our local representatives need to fight hard. There was a deal made a while back where Congressmember Gray wanted support, to get support for SB1. There was the deal that would free up $400 million for ACE to come down to Merced. That obviously is in limbo through no fault of the High-Speed Rail Authority, no fault of ours, but that also too is a really important point for us to make, that this ACE was promised. It was promised in exchange for a vote. So potentially too, we need to make that case as well. But again, I think we're stronger if we support yes now and then going on with the planning. Also two, I think it's a better idea. It gets it here faster. It gets us here cheaper. As a California taxpayer, I think we're all interested in the authority being as efficient as possible with its funds. It saves years of construction. And it cements support for the project as well. Avoids a lot of downtown disruption, potentially, I think 10 to 12 of our top 20 sales tax producers are currently endangered by the current plan. Nearly half of our top sales tax producers. You want a somewhat existential threat to the city. It's causing disruption to the sales tax producers. A big threat if they're disrupted and those properties are taken by eminent domain. So a lot, I think there's a big dream of a downtown station, but at the same time, this is a more realistic plan, avoids the downtown disruption. The downtown plan comes with a lot of potential, but also comes with a ton of risk as well. You potentially could have an elevated viaduct that further divides North and South Merced, that has dead space underneath the viaduct. You eliminate a lot of very productive businesses, including a number of our top sales tax producers, which are already very viable, very good businesses. So there's a huge risk too for having it downtown as well. And I think with last mile connectivity, with other connectivity as well, you have that same level of connectivity getting people all over town from a perimeter station. And again, too, the value of this high-speed rail to us is not how much time the High-Speed Rail Authority spends building in Merced. It's the connectivity to Gilroy and the connectivity to Palmdale and then ultimately to San Francisco and Los Angeles. That's the value. So the more time they spend demoing the Boys and Girls Club is not a value to us. The big value is, can they get to the big cities where we can connect and we can have better connectivity to the rest of the state. Mayor Pro Tem Boyle.
That's a tough act to follow. I think just in general of being on the subcommittee with you and Councilmember Smith, we've been having meetings since September. I feel comfortable in supporting the relocation. I know that there was a lot of questions tonight, but I think by giving the green light to high-speed rail, that we support the relocation, it allows them to start doing the work to provide more of that information. They aren't gonna go out and start doing all this work, not knowing that we're gonna support the relocation. So I think giving them the green light tonight and for them to relocate, I think a lot of our questions will be answered. Right when they told us that they were looking at relocating, I looked at this as another potential for economic development, especially with all of the previous approvals for annexations and commercial and retailers, and this is gonna be the hub. I mean, Darren, we fight about what district's the best district, but the South Merced is that next area of Merced that's gonna continue to grow. So I look at this as a huge benefit for the city of Merced. And similar to what Councilmember Smith said, I'm glad you brought this up. This is very similar to our pre-annexation. We give them the green light, then everyone puts their heads down and they get to work. And that's just kind of how I look at this. I'm glad that we've had these conversations. I remember our first meeting with High Speed Rail was a little tense because the report came out and we felt like we weren't going to be partners. But here we are today. We've had great conversations. I think it was our meeting in December where we said, hey, can you guys come and talk to the public? And here we are today. So we've gone a long way. And so I do support the relocation. I have very similar comments to the mayor and to Councilmember Smith. But I think in reality, it is also because we are on the subcommittee. So we've had the discussions, we've had the time to really process a lot of this information. So I will leave that.
No, the point you made too about the anchor of growth in South Merced too, with a downtown growth, South Merced, UC Merced really provides potentially good anchors all over town going forward. Councilmember Jean.
So I think it's important to acknowledge what Councilmember Smith and Mayor Pro Tem Boyle just mentioned, right? We weren't all involved in this conversation, right? And so maybe some of the folks up here are more comfortable making this decision of supporting the relocation. Right, but it's the fact that we're not all in this conversation. And not just this, but everything here has been pretty much hidden from the community, right? Somebody mentioned before, high-speed rail station in downtown? Decades in the planning. And now what, 6 months later, 6 months ago, now this whole new station in South Merced, that's apparently good planning. And so I think we need to really evaluate what's going to happen if we move the station, right? I think it was previously mentioned by one of the speakers that majority of residents prefer a station downtown, right? I want to hear from the community. Again, community has been left out of this discussion, right? And so I recall this past year, there were several meetings with High Speed Rail where they came to Merced, they had presentations and so forth, and yet none of this was discussed, right? And now decision just needs to be made without ever contacting residents, contacting community members. And so, Councilmember Smith, earlier you mentioned that we as a city shouldn't be doing this work, right? It should be High Speed Rail. And that, I could agree with that, right? Let's have them hold more town halls. Let's hear from community members. Let's actually make this decision. And I think it's important that we understand that faster and cheaper doesn't always mean better, right? We want to have good planning. We want to ensure that, again, this is going to last pretty much forever in the city of Merced. And so we need to know that this is what residents want. This is a decision that's going to be beyond all of us, right? And I want to see more analysis. I want to see what's going to actually happen. I didn't hear a definitive acceleration of timeline earlier. I didn't really hear exact dollar amounts of what's going to be saved. So I think it's important to really think about this, and instead of just making this decision tonight, where half of us don't actually even know what's going on, let's hear from our community and let's make a better decision.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think the numbers were at least $1 billion cheaper and then probably 2 to 3 years faster delivery, just not having to build that last bit, all the utility relocation, right-of-way acquisition, eminent domain actions, and then building an elevated structure. They got to build an aerial viaduct going through Merced, which is both expensive and time-consuming. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Zhang said a lot of things that I was going to say, and Councilmember Smith really summed it up when he said that you guys have been doing this subcommittee since September. And there's no small coincidence that you all feel the same way about doing a vote to support tonight. And I'm sorry, but that's a colossal failure on your part to not inform the rest of us and the community on your discussions, because there's some smart people here and I trust you guys. But there's such a lack of information that we have. You're asking us to just basically vote with you and trust you because you've been in this in September. And we have not had the briefings, we've not had the information that you've had. And it's awfully hard to just go along and say, well, okay, you obviously know what you're doing. How hard would it have been to get us up to speed? The only information we've had was the authority coming last week and spending a half hour, 40 minutes with us. And that's really all we've had to deal with. So it's going to be a tough. You've got 3 votes now, you just need 1 more.
No, I think, and sure, Councilmember Smith will get into it in a second, but I mean, the big hurdle, obviously, is the Brown Act. We can't, once the 3 of us talk, we can't. We're prohibited from that.
No, you'd have to come public.
Yes, that's what we're doing right now.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's what we're doing today. Councilmember Smith.
Man, a lot to unpack, but as the council member who's taken it upon himself to put together a new way in which we can have subcommittee meetings that comply with the Brown Act and move our discussions into the public, I think some of the comments I just heard are a little bit concerning. It's plain and simple. This council, the full council, appointed the 3 of us as an ad hoc committee. We did the work of the council. Frankly, we didn't have the opportunity to come back and do this multiple times, in part because the authority wasn't ready for this to be public. They hadn't yet gotten their thoughts together. We were asked to proceed in this manner because we thought we had the trust of the council to do this work. We're here today because the city and the county, in one of these meetings you're discussing, basically forced the authority to have those meetings and allow us to have this conversation in public. So I'll just leave it at that. When I say signal support, I don't mean a motion where we make some kind of formal decision. I mean, I think the answer tonight could be, as City Manager McBride said, some combination of B and C, that we send the subcommittee and the city staff off to see if we can come back with a deal, whether it's a better deal or not, but a deal so we can have this discussion in public. But I do think it would have been helpful. It sounds like we're not going to get there tonight, but if we could have had sort of a consensus, like a pre-annexation, yeah, if you come back with something I want to see that comports with our discussion, I might be supportive. That's really all I meant, and I apologize if I wasn't clear enough in that. I would agree that tonight the answer is probably some combination of B and C. But we all have to understand that the authority has a timeline, the state has a timeline that we don't control and we don't have input in. So I'm all for further community discussion, and I'm the one who said it first. I think it is unfortunate that our community, much less our council, is still processing a very complicated issue. But a February deadline is what it is. A May deadline is what it is. So if we're going to continue to have the conversation, I think the authority is hearing that, we need to move this along. And I think council has to make the commitment to be able to resolve this issue pretty soon, like in the middle of budget kind of thing.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember DuPont.
Thank you, Mayor. I would not support a formal vote tonight. I can signal support in wanting to go to Southeast Merced, and I think hopefully that signaling to the authority will allow them to understand, okay, we're willing to work here. But like I said earlier, there's a lot more questions than there are answers. And I think that's why the discussion of B and C is appropriate. Not only because this is the first time that we're talking about an open session where we get to hear the public's concern, we get to hear each other's concern, and for the benefit of the city manager, he gets to hear all of it. So hopefully there then is a continued discussion of what that means for the city of Merced. And there's a continued discussion between the public and us of what this change may mean for the city of Merced. But I think until there's also a signal from the authority that there's a willing partner to communicate some of the concerns that we had tonight, then we're not dealing in good faith here. And I feel like we want to be dealing in good faith, but until action actually happens, then I'm only speculating. So I can signal that support, but I would not be in favor of moving forward in any type of formal motion tonight.
If I could ask Mr. Whippy, what would your, I guess you retake the podium, sir. Could you talk about your, the authority's timeline in terms of when the business plan, when, in order to incorporate something into the draft business plan and ultimately into the final
Yeah, I
business
think
plan?
we'd love to be able to write in the draft business plan that the Merced City and County and the authority are all on the same page, that we've removed any ambiguity into where, when, and where we are building to Merced. I was talking about removing any ambiguity about the authority building to Merced. We'd love to be able to put that in the draft business plan, which is due out, I believe, on February 13th is what we're aiming for, and remove any of the uncertainty that resulted from the publication of the supplemental project update report.
When would you need an answer by in order to get something into that business, the initial draft business plan?
Say maybe the end of the month.
Councilor DuPont.
Question, when you say any ambiguity, the city and county of Merced and the authority of going to Merced, I hope we're not saying that the city of Merced and the county of Merced have to be on board with moving to Southeast Merced before the authority even says we're going to Merced.
No, the authority will be building to Merced, but it's how we present the connection. in the report.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. So you've seen what our options are. We have other direction as provided, which is, I think, where we're going. But what does the authority need for us to remove that ambiguity? Do you need conceptual support from us? Do you need a vote from us? Exactly what do you need to satisfy the authority so they will remove the ambiguity?
I mean, I think option A would be our preferred option. A clear signal from the council that they're on board with taking a look and starting to answer all these very valid questions which you've raised. Absent that, I think, option C, like we've moved forward here, what we put forward here as an option, perhaps we can get the transportation committee together and answer some of those in the interim, and then get some sort of written response from the city by the end of the month.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, as stated, obviously we want to make the right decision here. And I know, as was stated, three of us, Councilmember Smith, Mayor Pro Tem Boyle, and I have had more time to discuss this. And now, we've been obviously working as hard as we can to get this out as fast as possible. There's just been a lot, obviously a lot of work to get to this point. I certainly support the vote to support tonight. If there is a desire to have more analysis, I think, as was stated, it's really important to get that analysis done quickly and hopefully, come back again before the end of the month with an answer that would allow us, I think, to meet the authority's timeline, which I think would be very beneficial to us, because being in that business plan is very important, and having our our station in Merced memorialized in that plan is a really important factor to have. Councilor DePaul.
And I understand that, Mayor, but the issue is the authority wants to remove all ambiguity, and until we get our questions answered, there's still ambiguity. I mean, we still have those questions, and they won't be able to answer those questions until we formally vote to support, and then they're saying, okay, there's no more ambiguity.
But go ahead.
But that's just not accurate. That's making an assumption, because if we still have concerns that you're not going to be a willing partner in this process and the direct impacts that it has to the city, then yes, there's ambiguity until tracks are laid, until construction starts. So it's hard to say that we remove all ambiguity out of the situation, because as you heard tonight, we all have questions, and I don't think those questions are going to be answered by the authority by the end of the month either. So I can't support any type of form of vote.
All right, is there further discussion or a motion? Councilor Smith.
Look, one way or another, I don't think it's worth going a direction that can't get to unanimous support. So what I'm hearing, team, is we're not going to meet the February timeline. And you know what? That's okay. I would suggest, I won't make a motion yet, but I would suggest that, the authorities watching, they're listening, right? We just acknowledge that we're not going to be able to have a firm up or down in time for the February plan. But, I ask that council continue to empower the subcommittee and staff to sit down with the authority and try to get together something that looks like a real proposal. We have to recognize it needs to come from them, but that we need to have a strong hand in hopefully negotiating and dictating some terms. And, I think the three of us have heard you. How that gets back to the full council is, we need to discuss that. But I think that A couple of things. I think there are probably some ways that we can use a closed session to at least brief the 7 of us, but we probably need to have more regular updates and a better city communication strategy on this issue. So for today, I'd say the answer is probably direct the subcommittee to come back with a proposal with the goal of having a firmer answer in place by the time we get to, say, April, May, with opportunities for community feedback and comment and full council discussion and open session.
Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. And my colleague, Councilmember DuPont, work with me on this. I don't think we're looking for such a level of detail that we have to budget for it right away, but we're looking at high-level questions that we would just like high-level answers to. And I think we can do that. I think the subcommittee can bring those out. We are meeting for goals and priorities on the 31st as a full council. That may be a point where we can come back and review some of that.
Okay. What are some of those, the high-level questions you're talking? You mentioned mission, fire, big one, annexation,
Campus Parkway.
finishing Campus Parkway to the UC, north of Yosemite. Is that what that was your?
Well, it's currently built to Yosemite.
Yeah. So you're saying Campus Parkway north of?
Yeah.
The final mile, if it is in Southeast Merced, getting people back into the city.
Transit, last mile connections. Okay.
Annexation.
Okay.
SB 198.
All right. What else?
Design of the station.
Station. Okay. Anything else? What else?
That's all that is off the top of my head, but I think staff may have other thoughts as well. You have utility infrastructure in the southeast part of Merced, where they're gonna go, water, sewer.
Correct.
Roads, sidewalks, curbing.
Good. Mr. McBride.
Yeah, if I could, we could definitely do a dev rev for the site. We can be a little bit ambiguous about the site location. I know there's still some discussion by the authority about which one, but that's perfectly fine. We can come up with that. Magnitude of scale as possible. I think for me, between B and C, I see ACB for me as technical, like the pieces we need, which are big picture, water, fiber, sewer, roads, stuff like that. To me, C is more policy driven. It's the things that need to weigh in by the subcommittee and later on by the council. So I think this is a good combination of the two that we can kind of tackle your needs. I think if we can get direction tonight, maybe this is a good list we're working from tonight, but I think we can get this together for you. I'm thinking about when you do meet in the near future, if you want to set aside some time on the 31st, we could work that into your schedule. I just want to be mindful. It's a busy day. We have a great amount of, we always try to do really good work that day, and I think the day gets away from us. So if you want to preserve time to work on this, we need to be cautious about our schedule that we want to commit to do this on that day. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Councilor Tao, any thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I do support this project going to the south side too, and this project really gives the opportunity for south side to really expand into economic growth, and this is, being here for a month and a half, and hearing this for the first time, for the council, but I also look at the delay of the times that if we hold this off, this could delay the project too. So either way, just listening to the three of you in the subcommittees, I do have to support you guys. That's one of the reasons why we also create subcommittees, that we have the full trust in their words to bring it back. So for me, this here is we should move on and move forward with this project here, and due to deadlines, and of course there's a lot of unanswered questions too that we have a short meeting with the high-speed rail, and I do agree that all those answers won't be, we won't get the answers to all those questions right away, but if we can move on with this project, we'll eventually get the answers to all those questions. So yeah.
Well, if you make a motion to that effect, sir, you have my support. Councilmember Jean.
Kind of just adding to earlier when the discussion was with regards to what kind of questions do we have, right? Or what do we want to see? My 2 cents here again, I want to see town halls, right? I want to see a presentation made to the community, poster boards. I want to see what the original station was going to look like, and no renderings of the new ones, but you have Google, right? You could look at what you're expecting it to kind of look like, so that residents are able to see. Somebody asked before about pictures of the locations, right? Provide that, right? So provide information to the community so that they're able to get a holistic view of what's going on. Again, I'm frustrated that this has come before council within the past 6 months, and we're asked to make this decision without like really involving community. So I don't think I think we need to have town halls. So that's what I would like to see.
That's fair. Or anybody else? I think. Yeah, important point too made about, Councilmember Tao's point about, causing further delays and us being a reason for delay of this project versus obviously the very legitimate point that Councilmember Zhang made as well about process and community engagement, and then all the issues too that were brought up by Councilmember DuPont, Councilmember Harris, and others. And I think we, on the subcommittee looked at those issues as well, and those are big topics of conversation as well in terms of development and mission being a primary thing. I don't think we can get an answer to that relatively anytime soon. That requires it to be designed, which is currently in design, one, and then two, funding, tens of millions of dollars for that project. For example, the last mile connections, I know MCAG is already considering some of those, but that's all very conceptual as well. And then again, SB 198 has to change. The authority has to approach someone in the legislature, a bill has to pass, the governor has to sign it. I think us potentially giving a blessing tonight certainly makes that process easier for them. But then again, we could say 7-0, we could say South Merced, and then they could take it to the legislature, and the legislature could say no. And then if that's the case, then obviously it stays in downtown. And then the station, I think, it would be nice to have more information certainly on a station concept or station design, but are you guys able to do that at all, Mr. Whippy or Diana? Anything on is there anything you can give us more than in terms of how big a preliminary station would be? Hard to estimate it.
I think we could get into a long back and forth about this, but it's difficult to advance a concept or advance planning and engineering work without, the agreement of the council, the county, everyone. But, I think what we can do is we can take a look at perhaps some of the stations that we are currently developing and see how that aligns with, what Merced, and see how what an initial station that we are designing now, take the Fresno station, for example, how that might look in Merced, something like that.
Are you able to guarantee that it's an enclosed, more than a platform, it's a station, it's got?
I believe the stations that we've been designing have an enclosed area.
All right, additional thoughts, questions, comments, or motion? Councilor Smith.
Take a shot at this. I'll move to direct the Council Transportation Committee to further meet with our county partners and the rail authority along with staff to further consider these issues discussed tonight with the goal of coming back with a more crystallized, at least summary proposal, so the council can better decide or have better information to decide whether or not they want to support a movement of the downtown, or sorry, the station from its present location in downtown, with the goal of having that report back within 45 days.
Second.
Okay, additional discussion. Councilor Smith, or additional, go ahead, Councilor Jean.
I would just like for clarity, that doesn't include any sort of community engagement process, is that correct? Is that just internal, or is that something where we're engaging with the community?
So what I heard loud and clear is that probably everybody, we don't even know how to think about the problem yet. So I think what I want to do is just try to crystallize what it is we're talking about and then get community input.
Is that after the 31st?
Well, there's a town hall tomorrow and there's a town hall Thursday, and there's goals and priorities at the end of the month. So if you're asking the authority to commit to making presentations, that's not something I'm including in my motion, but I welcome all of us making that request. But I think Mr. Whippy also told us they're not ready to make that presentation, and they're not going to.
Understood, thank you.
Yeah.
And Councilmember Smith, a question for you too, or sir, are you, just based on some of the comments you heard, are you, the vote tonight to support, do you think that's a little premature based on things, or are you still potentially in support of a vote to support tonight?
I mean, me personally, I think I've signaled my support if we come up with the right concept that satisfies council, but I don't think it's wise to bring up a formal up or down motion right now. So I'm not going to amend my motion to include that. We'll make that determination at a future time. That's my view.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, additional comments? Okay, seeing no, we'll call for the question. Jennifer.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Smith and a second by Councilmember DuPont. Mayor and council, please cast your votes. Okay, and the motion passes with Mayor Pro Tem Boyle and Councilmember Zhang voting no.
Okay, so next steps will come back. The motion was to come back in 45 days, or to have a, in terms of next steps, go ahead.
Well, I think we need to schedule a committee meeting.
Yeah.
Like in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, more work.
And so 45 days would be what? The second meeting or the first meeting in March?
Yeah, if we come back, was it February 17, 13?
So you need to count increments of 7, like weeks.
Yeah, that's first meeting in March, it'd come back then. Second in February, if we can get it done by then. That's second meeting in February is, yeah, about 35 days. 30 days.
Well, let's see if we can do it. If we can't, we can come back and talk to council about adjusting the timeline.
Okay, so we'll shoot to come back, second meeting in February. All right. Yeah, 17th. Okay, the subcommittee, second meeting in February, and we'll look to address issues such as mission, fire station, annexation procedures, campus parkway, timeline, transit, last mile connections, SB 198, station design, infrastructure to support development in the area.
That's included but not limited to.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then outreach. All right. Anything else that council would like the subcommittee to potentially consider?
You got downtown mitigation in there?
Power.
I mean, there's existing agreements to do things downtown. Those don't just disappear.
Okay, downtown mitigation. Is it power?
Power.
Power generation. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, sounds good. I think that's it.
Agenda item E, adjournment.
Adjournment. Councilmember Harris, is this pertaining to adjournment or pertaining to?
He does, it pertains to adjournment.
Councilmember Harris.
I'd like to motion to adjourn tonight in honor of two people, Violet Walker, the 21-year-old daughter of Merced Fire Captain Mark Walker, who died unexpectedly in a skiing accident, and Norman Rolfe, 93-year-old founder of Rolfe Construction, who died Friday night.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Harris and a second by Councilmember DuPont. Mayor and council, please cast your votes. And the motion passes unanimously.